to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you? Then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Jardo, Refracted Curvature, Adam, Brian, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
Hey. Good morning, everybody.
I'm just here to learn.
Does that mean that you're here to sabotage, talk through, generally hijack the show and ignore everything that we've said or anything that contradicts your preconceived notions, should they be challenged, and a rebuttal, nay, concession be requested from you? Is that what you mean by you're here to learn?
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, well, that's good. Oh, we like those sorts of people here to learn. If you're one of those people in the audience that feels like you can come and tell us preemptively that you're here to learn, you're welcome to join the show. There's a link, as I've just said in the intro. That's what the show's for. In the meantime, let's do a bit of housekeeping. Let's see if we can do all of it today. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge that's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Horizontals are not curves.
No evidence of Earth curve, then. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Even they say they can't detect that.
Well, no. Any descriptions of axial rotation will be described with respect to a flat plane of reference in any event, regardless of people's assumptions that we have sphere-based orbital motion, also derived from flat plane measurements of angles to the stars. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Distance requires straight lines. Where do you get straight lines on a globe?
That would be exactly double the distance as it is half of the distance from the observer.
What? Double the distance of
Any
half...
distance?
Go on.
The distance to the sun?
Yeah, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Yeah, exactly double the distance as it is from half the distance from the observer to the sun.
Meaningless. Literally meaningless. Does it even have a physical location to travel to? Because if you to make this, say the same thing but insert the word horizon in there, and it suddenly stops making sense because of its lack of tangibility, your inability to touch the horizon. You're telling me you can suggest that half the distance, whatever you cleverly phrased it, suggesting that travelling twice as far is the same as halving the actual distance from you. Yeah, okay, very clever, but that infers some tangibility. I'd reject that out of hand immediately. And I'm sure you weren't expecting this response. You were just expecting a laugh, right? Well, no. You've inferred tangibility, and I'm not having it.
No tangibility. The sun is a particular distance, and I'm saying that it's exactly double the distance as it is half from the observer's.
I can't say that's the case. I can only say that's true for the GP. For the zenith position of the observer, if I describe an observer below a given timed position below the sun that I'll know it'll be, so I can do this, I can make an assertion that somebody at the sun's zenith I can make that distance claim about, and then make it more cleverly packaged up in a vague way that could be any distance at any time. But ultimately, I can only say what you've said and have it be actually accurate or true with respect to an observer below the sun at a given time. Then that would be true. But beyond that, I don't know what the sun is. I can't infer any tangibility or distance to it. I know that's what I'm asking for in the housekeeping question.
But distances are linear. Is Earth linear?
If we're measuring on Earth or describing a distance measurement with respect to Earth's surface, then yes. All measurements of Earth in terms of distance will be linear and flat. That's why the maps are flat and the scales on them are flat. Miles are flat, kilometres are flat, inches are flat, centimetres are flat. Measurements of distance are flat. They're all linear.
So it's game over.
If we're talking about distance, somebody in the chat and my comments recently was like, oh yeah, Nathan talking about how Earth's measured flat and he doesn't back it with anything at all, ha ha ha. It's because everything's referenced to a globe. My response, miles.
Yeah, there was some idiots in the show you put on, the re-up of the show yesterday. They were saying the moon is upside down in the UK from the moon that we see. I think it was here or
Depends
Australia.
on when you look at it. The moon is rotating like a... I'll use someone else's terminology. Rest in peace, Antonio Subrat. Like a wagon wheel. I'll just describe it to someone else who originally used it. I think it might have even been Nick originally anyway. Stretch out Nick. That's Phuket Word. YouTube channel. Described it as a wagon wheel. The way it moves is like a wagon wheel. If you happen to see the moon at a particular point in the night where it looks like a face, go back 5 hours later and look at it again, and it will have rotated like a wheel. And the face will be pointing to the side. Because that's how it moves across the sky.
That has nothing to do with Earth measurements, though. Sorry.
Doesn't have anything to do with Earth measurements. Go on, Brian.
I thought it just had something to do with where you're positioned. I didn't know that the moon... I never looked now, but I didn't think the moon did that throughout the night. I didn't think it changed your view of it.
Oh, absolutely. Go and check it tonight. It rolls. The face of the moon will roll across the sky. And like I say, for the sake of utilising the same verbiage that was used by Stretch Out Nick and then subsequently used by Antonio Subrat, rest in peace, was the term wagon wheel, so that you know exactly what's being described when you picture a crater, as they get described in name only, or the face of the man on the moon, if you will. Its orientation will move like a clock. If you were rolling a clock along the carpet, its hands would move around. Yeah, so it's wagon wheeling its way across the sky. The moon, that is.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realise.
I've definitely seen that. Sorry, Brian.
Just got to be looking. It's
Yeah.
not something that you'd pay attention to because you've got to consciously look at it and go, here's how the face of the moon, we'll call it, looks now. And then consciously go back and look later at night and go, yes, the orientation has now rotated 25 degrees, for the sake of argument. But unless you're consciously doing that, now I always used to do it, and then there was a break because of Flat Earth. Now I've got kids again. I'm doing it like I used to, with my kids though, saying, look, just crick your neck a little bit and pay attention. See those lights? Don't just look at them and go, lights. Yeah? What are they actually doing? That's what I'm trying to teach my kids at the moment. So, as much as most people, they're not even looking up most of the time. Like, you'll see a moon on the horizon, and I don't care if this is forced perspective. I'm not going to get into that discussion. That's not what the reason of me bringing this up, right? The moon will look massive coming up over my Tesco. It happens to be at the top of the hill. It's where I drop all my microphones off when they're being delivered. Now, I am lucky enough to occasionally see a moon rise above it. I've never seen the moon on the horizon, in case anybody asks. It's not something I think is easily caught, unlike the sun, for whatever reason, right? But nevertheless, I do see it coming over the buildings and tree lines where I'm at, and one of the positions it comes across, which is above my Tesco, on occasion it'll look beautiful. big and funny coloured. I couldn't tell you what colour. I'm colourblind. I just know it ain't the normal looking colour of the moon, and it looks weird, whatever colour that may be. And often I'll be there with my jaw on the floor, looking at it, go, wow! And there'll be just people walking past me while I'm literally stop me in my tracks, because I can't quite believe how breathtaking it is. And sometimes it's because there's someone close enough, within a metre, let's just say, and I'll turn to them and go, look at that! And they'll just look at me like I'm bonkers. And last time it happened, it wasn't actually a moon,
The
right?
F4 glob.
It was Aurora. So we had Aurora Borealis here. Now, I've never experienced it. And there it is! Now, my wife's describing it to me and saying that she can't really see it. And she's taking pictures of it and getting clear pictures. But she's saying she can't see it. It was clear as day to me. It was absolutely overwhelming. It took over the whole sky. I didn't quite believe how big it was. Enormous, vast light display that I got privy to. Now, I don't know if this, again, because something to do with me being colourblind, but I, while staring up, saw two pedestrians 100 yards away walking up the street. I sprinted across to these, which I then discovered were two middle-aged women. I'm like, look at that! We got Aurora! Isn't that amazing? And they're like, oh, I can't really see it. And I look around, I'm like, oh, maybe it's the streetlights blocking your view, because I could still see it. But I obviously knew what I was looking at, and where my courtyard is here, there's no streetlights, so it's nice and dark. So I'm tentatively saying, come over here where it's dark and you can see it better. And then after I'd said it, I'm like, maybe these two middle-aged women with a strange man strolling up to them for no particular reason saying, look up in the sky, and then saying, come over here where it's dark, they might not get the right idea, but they might think I'm very dodgy and not want to do that. But nevertheless, I was so enthralled by it that I was keen to tell the closest person, look up. Look at that amazing sight that most people didn't even notice. There was people strolling by, as I say, and even though it was there for all to see, half the time people aren't even cricking their neck upwards. They have no idea what the moon or the sun or the stars are doing. Literally no idea.
Maybe you were seeing it because you're colorblind, and those were colors you were able to see, but the normal eye couldn't.
It wasn't any colour for me. It was just a giant, bright pattern. Like, well, if you've seen a picture of Aurora, I can see the pictures on a monitor that people have of Aurora, and indeed in my the photos my wife took there and then, I could see him in the photos with colour, like a purpley hue. But even though I can't typically see purple, but that's what she told me, so I know it was. But my point is that I didn't see any colour in them, but what I saw was the vastness of them and how they were spreading out. They didn't look like clouds, you know. It was just a shape and a pattern rather than the colour that people generally will describe. I didn't really get that, but that's just me and my vision.
You're not really far off with that, with your notion of the people, everyday people just don't like looking at the sky, especially the people who believe stories about the things in the sky. It's funny because they don't want to look at the sky.
Everyday people. Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
They just want to believe the story, but they don't want to actually observe the things that they're believing stories about. It's very weird. Sorry,
yeah,
Brian.
and you point it out to them, they just look at you like you're innocent. Like, look at that moon, isn't it amazing? And they'll just look at you. They will not crick their head. I mean, I've made that mistake too many times. Yeah. I know the reaction. People do not look. Now, the same applies with something noisy. It happened with a Chinook helicopter maybe a week ago. And the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, are we being invaded? I turned to a big fat black guy that was right next to me and said, oh my God, are we being invaded? And it did the same thing. Now, this is while it's going, making a right old racket. And he still didn't lift his head. So I'm like, what hope have I got when there's a two-blade massive, like, I don't know how many tons. It looks like it's 200 tons or something, a Chinook helicopter. They're massive. I'd never seen one before. There it is in front of me, making a right old racket. I make a wisecrack to the guy next to me. Anyway.
Could I just rewind the conversation a little bit?
Hell no. How dare you? We haven't even finished housekeeping.
Well, that's what I'm on. Like, I'm on a housekeeping question. That's why I want to rewind it to, because things are getting kind of lost. There was talk earlier about the distance to the sun, right? And someone said, I think it was Jad O, that it has a distance or whatever. How can you give something a distance if it appears to rise as you rise?
You can't.
I can't. Yeah, that's the problem. As you can take the same, you can get the same angle to either limb of the sun from a plane as you can from a boat at the same time over the same spot, over the same GP for the observer. So if you're getting the same each time, then how can you give it a distance?
Can't.
You can't do that.
Well, in context of heliocentrism, can you give it a distance at all?
No. You can extrapolate one though, mathematically.
How's that?
From the center, from the center, you can make up one.
Well, the distances will all be extracted from a plane of reference.
That's correct.
Do they have a plane of reference?
No.
Do they have one?
That's why Brian said from the center.
I think you I think what you're doing is overreading the answer to that question.
No, we're not. You just know what the origin of the
you're
answer, if it came, regardless of somebody's ignorance of the answer and where it came from, was to deliver it. We know the origins of the answer to that question if someone's to assert a heliocentric distance to the sun. We know exactly where the maths originates, who came up with it, why they came. We know everything about it, so how can you say that? Shout out to you, by the way, for all the super chats. Doesn't mean you get to make nonsense assertions, though. Sorry.
No, I get at least 3 nonsense assertions.
Per super chat.
Hold on. Well, let me say that.
So,
Because if you want to believe there's a distance to it, it would require you accept first that Earth is flat to get that distance.
For the basis of the measurements currently, but no, I don't know that if there is. How do I approach this? Which bit do I pick first? I don't know that we can't approach it. But given that we might be able to approach it, just a quick check with my live stream audience, because I'm getting a whirly whirl on my monitor, my studio monitor that shows me a preview of how the live stream looks, and it's giving me a whirly whirl. Is everybody getting a decent live stream? Can you just let me know from the live chat? Hopefully you all are, and it's just my monitor that's whirling rather than your actual stream. In any event, I don't know that we can't get a distance. Yeah, there might be something between us and whatever it is that the sun is that's precluding us from getting a distance because of the way that that thing precluding us changes the optical presentation of it. But it doesn't mean that there isn't
That's
something.
right.
I don't know that there isn't, if you know what I mean. So there's one starting objection. Go on.
That's non sequitur to what I said, though.
You're saying if we do measure it based on the measurements heliocentrically, that it will be a flat Earth prerequisite. And you're right, but that's not really a measurement, is it?
No, it's not.
no, but my answer gives form to the reason why heliocentrism has a measurement for the sun in the first instance. And I've given this answer numerous times over the years, and it's been palmed off with a bit of comedy, which is great. But I'll just lay it out to you. So, how long is a piece of string?
I don't know. I'd have to measure it.
And how would you measure it
With a tape
without
measure?
knowing the length?
Without knowing the length, I'd just run a tape measure down it.
Yeah. But that would be knowing the length. We don't know the length.
I'd want to measure it then. Where are you going with this?
Where I'm going with this is exactly where heliocentrism has been going for the last 250 years. A piece of string is exactly the length of if we were to halve it
And then double it.
extract the exaction of the measurement from half of its length. So if you have a piece of string and you halve it, you know the half length. So then you'll know the full length. But before you halved it, you wouldn't know the full length.
What?
Okay, well, I'm glad we worked that out. So if I want to
Dude,
know
I'm
how
looking
high
at
a
a piece of
mountain
string
is,
right now.
I need to go all the way up and to the top of the mountain and then halve it. And then I'd know the full distance. But first I must know the halve to get the double. I mean, that's really helpful. Thanks, Jardo. Also, thank you for gifting all those memberships out. Nobody came out of the woodwork this time, though. Last time you flushed Earth out. Very amusing it was, too.
Yeah,
Right, but the
I'm always on to flushing someone out. But Earth was a bit of gold, I guarantee that.
Yeah, you're buying of memberships rather than just like gifting me a sticker or a big super chat, right? Which is also lovely. Obviously, I like when people do that. But by gifting memberships, suddenly the people who get them are the people who are watching the most often, right? It's done on that basis. If you're a super fan, it'll give you the membership first. Yeah? So flushing out Dearth was, like you say, like sifting a bit of gold out of that little river that is that chat stream. Nice little nugget. Brilliant.
Wait,
Sorry.
was that really the Dearth guy?
Was Dearth? Yeah, that's his main account.
Or was it
isn't
an imposter?
What?
Yeah, but a lot of times people come in with Mark Sargent icons, or they'll come in with Arwen icons or other icons, and it's not really them.
I must admit, I didn't double check, so I couldn't say for certain. Who cares, Neil? It's not that important.
No.
Oh, I care if David Weiss is watching.
Man, you're just
I
like
got
a
something to say to
pawnbroker.
him.
Got my gold nugget, and he's like, "Are you sure this is gold?" Shut up! Just give me my money.
The people that are watching on YouTube, they can only be the people that they are watching on YouTube.
Exactly.
Oh.
They can only be the people they say they are. There's no saying
I
you're someone you're
gotcha.
not. Okay? Now shut up.
Got it. Nice.
Well, back to the point I was trying to make about asking for a distance to the sun. First, you would have to accept Earth is flat to get your distance to the sun to assert a heliocentric universe to say a distance to it.
You see, and that's what they were not getting in chat yesterday. No matter how many times you went through it. So they have to be trolls.
Just give John props. Yeah, better phraseology. Yes, much better. No disagreement here. Sorry to be pedantic, but that's kind of what we do, right?
Yeah, but when you hit them with that, then they go to boats going over the horizon.
When you hit them
It's
with
like, are you
that,
trolling me?
hold on. When you hit them with that, what's that very carefully phrased statement that John just delivered?
You need a flat plane of reference. I understand that. But then they come with boats over the horizon when you just laid out that you're going to need a flat plane of reference to take any of those measurements to the sun, to the moon, to the stars. They come back with freaking boats going over the horizon. Are you kidding me?
No, it's the same thing. You can reassert your position. If somebody says boats over the horizon, you're like, what? The physical geometric sphere edge formerly known as Earth curve marked with an X labelled horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator. You'll need a flat plane for that too. It's named surface level.
Well, what's at the horizon? The curve that they said it's too big to measure?
Exactly.
Well, if you're gonna,
at the horizon?
you can't measure it. You can calculate it based on the surface level that you will measure. So that's the point, isn't it? If you're going to assert that you need a horizontal plane of reference and they say boats over the horizon, you're like, yeah, you're begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve maths that leads you to make that assertion also requires surface level. And that is the only thing being measured. Earth must be flat for that assertion. Boats over the horizon. Yeah, no worries. As long as you accept that Earth is going to be measured flat for that. On your knees and acknowledge the surface level that you will be measuring to suggest boats go over the horizon. Now, so long as you accept, get on your knees and accept how flat Earth must be for that assertion, I'm willing to tolerate you bull-believing dick, and your assertion that you believe we've got an Earth curve labelled horizon in your Earth curve maths, which measures Earth flat. I'll go along with you. But on your knees and acknowledge the surface level that must be flat and measured for your boats to go over a horizon. Because that's where it comes from.
And that's exactly what we did. Me, Christian Zekas, and a few others that were in there yesterday. But they were just trolls. I mean, well, Nathan has never measured the Earth.
Miles.
What are your measurements?
Yeah, I've got an odometer in my car. Yeah, I said it
I
earlier.
was about to say that. I said, "Have you driven a car?"
Yeah, I have, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, we can measure Earth. We measure it daily. It's a necessity that Earth is flat for us to have a linear-based flat system of miles that we can use with scales on the flat maps. That's why they're flat. Like Earth is flat. That's how we deal with Earth. Flat. It isn't that complicated. It also isn't that curvy. It wouldn't function if you, in your pea-brain assertions of sphericity, thought that it did. It doesn't. It only works flat. That's what miles are. Look it up. They're linear.
It's funny that people can say that while simultaneously at any given moment there are hundreds, if not thousands, of flights taking off and landing, all considering the Earth to be flat and stationary.
Yeah, we brought that up too. Very, very well. And it's funny because I'm telling them, look, you're measuring Earth flat yourself. You keep saying height. You keep saying above. You keep saying below. These are things that do not happen on a ball.
Yeah, that's the greatest part of whatever magic trick we're under. If you're going to assert that there's some dark hidden hand lying to you, what's the real trick at foot? Well, the trick is to get everyone to appreciate and absolutely without question functionally operate on a flat plane measured as such, but simultaneously declare their belief that everything's curving. And when challenged or put into a position of cognitive dissonance with those two conflicting positions, suggest that Earth is too big to measure ball-shaped when we acquire the measurements of it flat to actually functionally do anything ever. Well, that's only because it's so big. That's the only real magic trick that's working up until now. I say up until now because that will get eradicated with the release of the book that's coming out named Welcome to Flat Earth by Nathan Oakley. It's only a few months away.
But that's how good the brainwashing is. The people do that to themselves. They will simultaneously say Earth is too big to measure the curve, but yet say we measure the curve and have to negotiate curve and curve this and curve that. But your first statement out the gate was it's too big.
Yeah,
It's problematic.
you
That's the
played that.
relevance of the black swan.
Sorry, John.
I was going to say that's the relevance of the black swan then. Because if it's refracted, you don't have a measurement of curvature.
Yes, they kissed their physical measurement of Earth curve that they suggest is the horizon that's marked with an X in their Earth curve maths. When they said it was refracted, they kissed away any suggestion of a physical, tangible measurement. Okay, so they can't measure it. So then you go, well, what is being measured with respect to Earth's surface? Surface levels being measured.
You know
Nah,
what
the
people miss the point or ruin this point?
You missed the point, Eli. Get lost. You smell too.
The thing about it is, you see what you just said, it was very distinct. You said they lose the claim of measurement. Like, you can't claim that's Earth curve right there because that was mathematically derived supposedly from the Earth being a sphere with a radius of 3,959 miles and then getting the calculated distance to the horizon. But they always say, well, look at boats and buildings and this, that, and the third. And, oh, no problem, it's refraction, this, that, and the third. But once they start saying all that stuff, they're not actually making a measurement claim. And if you don't point that out, you lost.
Correct. So what Eli's saying is, on the one Out of one side of their mouth, they're talking about orthographic representations of the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculations that measure Earth flat with surface level. Out of the other side of their mouth, it's not an orthographic mathematics anymore. It's what we actually see with our eyeballs. Again, a little sleight of hand that they maybe know they're doing, maybe they don't. But whenever we're actually measuring something, we're not looking at it anymore. It's the maths of their Earth curve. Whenever we're measuring something, we're not looking at it, is the point. But they'll be telling you it's a refractive effect. What? Like something that's to do with optics? Well, that's not your begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve maths in orthographic view, now is it? That's what we see with our eyes.
So once they say
Goes to
refraction,
show
then it's
how-
not geometric.
And it's not Earth
Goes
curve
to
maths.
show
Earth
how
curve maths is where
devastating-
the only place that the physical geometric sphere edge marked with an X and labelled horizon exists. It only, quote the rumpus, exists in the maths.
Can I weigh in on this? Because what they'll do is they'll accept everywhere between here and the horizon, regardless of the distance, is flat, right? And that's where what people are programmed into believing, right? But curvature always starts and is behind the horizon. So then they try and use the horizon, even though within there, now most people don't know this, but the people in this arena know it, right? Right? Even though their claimed globe's edge, right, is not there, and they know it's not, and they know it's only in the maths, they will still, most people will still try and treat the horizon as a point of tangency, geometric tangency, right? Once we took away that point of geometric tangency, which leads us back to what Eli said, right? When they're talking about that, it's very simple. Our response to that was in 2020 was, and
Black
this is the
Swan.
whole point of, yeah, but it was, no, but our response to, their response to the Black Swan is that it's refractive. So our response was very simple. So not geometric then.
Yeah, welcome
End of
to Flat
story.
Earth.
That,
That's what I
yeah,
just said.
it ends. Yeah, ends it there and then. But the point is that most people are programmed or indoctrinated into accepting that everywhere between here and the horizon, regardless of distance, is flat. And after that, that's when the curvature starts. So curvature is always, forever, in a place they can't see. It's a place they believe exists beyond the horizon. But but locally changes in size with the distance to the horizon. Because you can't even have it. How do you measure a distance to something that changes, that can change its position, apparent position to you?
You don't.
Via the weather. It's the same as trying to measure a distance to a star. You can't.
So then what about the farmer that says that his computer in his tractor accounts for the curvature?
No, it just doesn't.
What about him?
No, well, that's just bullshit. When the guy he's talking about, it was the guy who was talking about hectares. You're like, those are flat. What are you talking about? Him suggesting that the computer says yes to Earth curve doesn't make it so, Neil.
I'm gonna have to trust the machinery.
Okay,
No,
let's
if
just
it
try and put it
says
another
that
way.
it's account, then I
Neil,
don't trust it.
when they say GPS, there's an inference because global positioning system. All right, well, that's obviously spherical, right? So therefore, it's using a global positioning system when it tells you how far or near something is based on the GPS readout in the tractor. When you're talking about measuring out how many hectares you've mowed. Okie dokie. Other than GPS isn't spherical. It's global in name only and is Cartesian in actual nature.
Oh dear.
So yeah, computer says globe, it just doesn't work, I'm afraid. No.
You know what's funny with all these measurements that we're talking about, especially linear measurements? On the 24th of this month, I have 3 speeding fines that I'm contesting at my local magistrates court. And my argument is in relation, when we go to trial, my argument is in relation to the speed monitoring device, which was a a camera set up in the back of the vehicle that was set on a road. And the evidence that was given to me for the brief was one particular photo showing my vehicle alleged to be travelling at a certain speed. And my notice of application back to the prosecution was, could you please provide the second photo of my vehicle to show the distance travelled to produce the kilometres per hour that I was travelling at. And on the three particular alleged offences, they withdrew all three of them just based upon that application.
Yeah, because
even if they can-
just 1 second, John, very quickly. Because the real issue is, are they giving you a measurement or are they giving you a calculation? And I've thought about this myself. If I ever really end up in a bit of an issue, a bit of a problem with a speeding ticket, I'll simply ask, is the camera gun or is the speed gun using, the speed gun, is that using the two-way speed of light calculation? Because what they've got to produce is the one-way speed of light measurement that doesn't exist. Because at that stage, they have to admit it's only using the calculation that is known as the two-way speed of light. So it is not measuring a distance between it and your car.
You sneaky Irish
You
bastard.
basically
Are
asked
you
them
really
that.
going to use
Yeah.
that little loophole in
Oh, well,
Einsteinian declaration to get out of a speeding
It's
ticket?
not to do
I
with
love
Einstein.
the
It's not
Irish.
to- it's to
I
do-
love the
It's not
Irish.
to do with Einstein. It's not to
I
do
say
with
do
Einstein.
it.
Einstein wasn't. Einstein wasn't. Einstein is only. Lots of people were claiming to be measuring, like Fizeau was the main one. Prior to, and there was people before him claiming to be measuring the one-way speed of light. But it was pointed out that they're not measuring a one-way speed. They're using a return signal, and they're making a calculation out of it. So a pre-assumption, and it's a heliocentric pre-assumption. As you can break it down by 16, divide it by 16, and in the real world, if we use it for real things in the real world, it makes no difference. So it's a change of a calculation. It makes no difference. So it's nonsense.
Well, you could go that route and then try to maintain that in a courtroom, or you could make the prosecutor look flat earth for asserting that those two positions will give you a linear distance over time to give you a speed. And
Yes.
just
And if he says
that's
yes, if he says
That's
yes,
why I'm going to trial. I'm going to trial to make sure the prosecution admits this fact.
yeah, because if they suggest it's linear, then they're affirming the flat surface that must be referenced in order to give them that linear calculation after the fact, if it's a measurement that they can provide with a second photograph. Right, there's a lot of prerequisites here. But nevertheless, they've got to admit that an Earth that's flat in order to acquire that for you. As of course it is. How else would it be measured? It is measured, we already know. I like Brian's, no offence to anybody else here in this discussion, but I just like Brian's spin on it the most. All right, so you've got a two-way speed of light measurement, have you? You sneaky bastard, I love it.
Yeah, because
I don't think
it's a valid point.
I
That might be
don't
over.
think you can challenge the radar gun that way. They wouldn't allow that.
How do you know?
They have no choice.
No,
I'm correct.
You're not allowed to challenge a fact in court like that.
But
yeah,
it's not a fact.
It's true, John. You're right, John. So the challenge is not the speed of light, which you could not argue in a court of law at a lower level. It is the travel of distance to create the speed, which is photo A is at X point and photo B is at X point. and you've traveled so many meters at certain period of time to develop your speed, which no speed camera does. It just takes one particular photo, that's it.
Yeah, but you're missing the point. That distance is based off of they're not measuring any distance. They're calculating a distance based off of time, and that time, the calculation they're using in relation to time, which is never calculation, is using a two-way speed of light calculation. So they don't have a measurement. That's my point. They can't produce this measurement. So when John said you can't challenge that a fact, I can, because it's not. If they're claiming it's a measurement, then they're not claiming a fact. I'm stating with absolute certainty that what they're using is a calculation, and they can never prove any different. I can absolutely prove them completely wrong at any point in court. Because they can't produce the measurement they're claiming to use.
Hold on, just go ahead. Go on mute, Brian, just while John talks.
There's a thing in the ground that measures between 2 points. It's not measuring the speed of light. It's measured between 2 points and the amount of time it takes for you to pass one point to the next. And then it takes your picture. You will not win this argument.
Yeah, but it's not measuring. That's the point. The point is that it's using that amount of time and then trying to amalgamate it to a two-way speed of light calculation. There is no measurement going on. Same with those laser measurement devices. They're calculating.
Wait, are we talking about a speed camera or a radar gun?
Same thing. It's all the same.
It's a radar.
Are they? I don't think they're the same thing. Are they?
They're using the same calculation. It makes no difference. It doesn't matter. They're using the speed of light.
I can tell you this though. Yeah, but Brian, I can tell you this. Every time I got hit, that freaking thing was dead on. That's exactly how fast I was going.
Yeah, but that's not
like
the point.
Trying to challenge fingerprints, right? Trying to challenge the logic of fingerprints in court, you will be told to shut up, and you will be told that argument's invalid.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, it's right on. Listen, I got to go for one tomorrow where the guy says I was doing 65 and 35, and he was freaking right. I was begging him to at least bring it down to 45. But it was a flipping thing hit it right in the head. I don't know how.
Neil, I
just wanted to say they're not the same. They're not the same, Chocolate. Camera and a radar gun and a traffic speed stop thing. It's not the same thing.
No, I'm talking about the radar gun.
They're using the same calculation. They're using radar. They're using the same thing.
That's on point too. The camera's on point too.
No, they're not.
You're missing it. I'm trying to explain something to you, and I'm trying to tell you something here. Okay. Right. The thing about their own point. I can take the calculation they're using and I can divide it by 16. And if they use that calculation, I would then give them, after dividing it by 16, which it would still come out perfect for you. Because the only difference is a calculatory difference. And it would be a difference in distance over time. But because the two-way speed light calculation is such a ridiculous speed, I can't even remember it off my head now, but it's a ridiculous speed. Even if you divide it by 16 or 32, what you'd end up with is still a ridiculous speed. It would be hundreds of thousands of miles, or 1 point something, or 3 point something million miles per hour.
What if you did?
The point is that it would make no difference. The calculation would be different, but they would still say, if you were saying you're going 47 miles an hour, if you were going 47 miles an hour, they would still put you down as going 47 miles an hour. It would be like 47.0 blah 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 blah, as opposed to 47.1 blah blah, or something like that. That would be the difference. It's a joke.
What if you divide it by 64?
Do if you want, but the point is that it's still going to be ridiculous. You're dealing with. If you think about a speed camera, right? 100, 200 meters past the speed camera. It does you, right? Whatever it is, right? That's a very short distance. If they're dealing with hundreds of miles per hour as a thousands of miles per hour as a calculation, what's the difference? If it's hundreds of thousands of miles per hour, what is the difference between that and hundreds of millions of miles? It's no difference over that short distance. They change the calculation. The difference will be a 0.0000421. This kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's such a tiny difference. That's my point. It's just a calculation. You can change the calculation. That calculation is based off of heliocentrism. And it's a ridiculous speed they give it because they're dealing with ridiculous distances in that.
I don't care what it comes from. When you are going and you're in a school zone and you go that 10 mile an hour over the 35 or 25 mile an hour speed limit, that freaking camera goes off and you get nabbed. When I come around the freaking bend and that cop has that gun on me and he says I'm doing 65, I was doing 65.
Right, we have in the UK, if you're a viewer or panel members, right, check this out. Just Google British road safety advertisements. Just Google. Brian's laughing. Don't give it away. Let me tell him. In the UK, our road safety campaigns that are nationally advertised on television, I don't know if it's the case now, but certainly up until recently, all of them are traumatizing, to the point where a well-paid director in Hollywood would be quite proud of just how traumatizing some of these adverts are, especially as they sneak up on you after being advertised Cheerios or hot chocolate from Cadbury. Next advert is a child being mowed down by somebody at 40 miles an hour and then skidding along the road for half a minute. And then they stand up dead and say, if you hit me at 30 miles an hour, there's a 90% chance I'll live. If you hit me at 40 miles an hour, there's a 90% chance I'll die. This child saying this, dead. It's a corpse you've just watched been run over. That was a legit nationally advertised campaign here in Britain. One of many just like it. That literally, I'm sure Brian remembers that campaign. It's the last 10 years. That one, you can't get it out. It's embedded in my brain and will be till the day I die. Because you're just watching, like I say, you're watching a Cadbury advert. Next advert, you're watching a child get killed in the middle of a road. No joke.
Same thing in the States. They had the same thing. All I'm saying is that freaking thing is accurate. Nailed me every time.
No consideration for the child that you might have mowed down. It's just, yeah, I was definitely doing that fast in a school zone.
Well, that's a good non sequitur to the point. Thank you for that.
Yes, Brian's point is that the tiny, insignificant amount that you might make a difference if you were to claim that you divide the speed of light by 64 or 128 or whatever it is that you want to divide it by, it's going to make such an insignificant amount of difference to that speeding position on those two different photographs that who cares?
So you're not going to be able to use the radar gun to get an accurate speed measurement. That's the conclusion we're going to draw from this.
No, you are getting an accurate speed measurement.
Yeah, we are getting accurate.
No, nobody is getting an accurate speed measurement.
Then how the hell do I keep getting hit?
It's a calculation, my God. What you need to do
but I gotta be going that speed.
My God, this is ridiculous.
No.
You keep on arguing with me. I'm pointing out stuff to you that I have researched and absolutely effing know.
No, we get you. It's all calculated. You can't give us this based on any extrapolated value because it's all calculated. There's an origin, you know it. Don't get frustrated with us. We were only having a laugh.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I'm still getting hit with it. So obviously, if it says I'm doing 37, I'm doing 37 because as soon as it flashes, I look and my speedometer says 37.
If Brian hits you with
If
Brian hits you with the speed of light divided by 36, there's a 37% chance you'll live.
Which is completely non sequitur to the point Neil just made.
No, it's not. Well, you're not listening. Give me a second.
Make connected things. Give me a logical syllogism that connects them.
The two-way speed of light, right, is based off of a speed that's so ridiculous, right, that you, over the course of distance, a couple of 100 meters, whatever it would be, a couple of hundred, some hundreds or 1,000 feet or whatever, over a distance with a speed going, or even over a distance of whatever amount of miles, 100 miles with a radar, doesn't matter. You can take that calculation and you can divide it way down. That will change it. That would change absolutely everything in heliocentric space. But in the real world, the difference in the calculation would be so small that Neil would still get 37 if he was going 37.
If you divide it by 256?
Well, yeah, you can divide it by enough. Eventually, you can divide it by enough, and you will change it around where he'll get 36.
When I'm doing 27 miles an hour, that freaking camera does not go off. When I hit 37, that freaking camera goes off.
Neil,
Prove it.
can I ask you a question? Neil,
No.
can I ask you a question about that camera?
No. I'm going to go with no.
Yeah, he's going to answer. Do you have one photo of that speeding fine or two photos?
I don't know. I got to check.
I'm going to guarantee you have one photo. And what they're doing is they're using the reflection rate, of the radar device.
Well, I don't care what they're using. My speedometer is saying what they're telling me it's saying. Holy shoot.
Don't say this on air because you're going to defend yourself. What I'm saying is, when I originally brought this up, is there's one photo of you doing a particular speed in which it says that you're speeding, right? What they're doing is they're using reflection from a radar based upon the calculated speed of light to generate your speed. But speed is a linear distance over time. So they need to take a picture of you initially at point A and then at point B, and then they need to calculate the distance over time to work out your speed, which they never do. So that is your get out. And that's what Brian is trying to tell you, is that they can't ever calculate from your one picture and a reflection of the radar using linear, using the reflective rate of the speed of light to determine your speed. You need to be able to work your speed out over a distance.
Wow, I give up. Freaking thing is accurate. That's all I'm telling you.
And the thing is, and they probably don't understand it either, is you're taking it from 2 points. The time that initially contacts your vehicle and the time spent between that interaction and when it stops connecting with your vehicle from that line of sight. That's the 2 points that is measured. The calculation, which speed is always a calculation, will be done from those 2 points.
The 2 points is using trigonometry.
Maybe the problem is that they do that, but they only take one picture.
Doesn't
Maybe
matter. I'm
somehow
going that speed.
No, I understand what you're saying. I pass by those things all the time when you pass them and they tell you exactly how fast you're going. I get that. So yeah, those things are accurate. Whether they're calculating or measuring, the calculation seems to be accurate because yeah, it does match what my freaking speedometer in my car says. So I get what you're saying, Neil. I get your point. But Jago's point, I think, does hit because yeah, you would need 2 pictures, but it's only giving you 1. So maybe somehow it is doing the calculation, but it's only taking 1 picture. That might be the problem.
A picture is never a measure of speed. Does everybody in this room recognize that?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Right. Okay, because
what I'm saying is that somehow the calculation of speed, is incorporated into the whenever the machine takes the picture, right? That's how it that's supposedly the proof that you were speeding.
No,
But
that's the proof
They're
with your
using
car. That's
Sorry.
if they knew what they were doing. That's the proof that it was your car. It was it just measured.
True.
I take it away from the car.
Just-
Go to a picture. They measure
hang
the
on.
pitch speed of a baseball. That freaking thing is right on.
Hang on, let me do it. They're using a return signal. That's what they're doing. So the signal goes out, hits your car, and comes back. And they're determining if that signal takes, let's say, 2 seconds to get back. Like, probably won't take 2 seconds. But I just use 2 seconds because it's better than going into microseconds. Let's say 36 microseconds or whatever the bloody hell it is, right? They then take that and say, right, based on the two-way speed of light calculation, which is, I remember now, I think if I'm correct, 671 million miles an hour, right? That means you're going X speed, right? Simple as. That means you're going X speed because that distance covered between the camera and your car over that 36 microseconds or whatever the bloody hell you want to talk about, right? Based off of that calculation means you're going X speed. Now, if you take that 671 million miles per hour and you divide it by 36, right? You do the same thing, and you will still, if you're going 37 miles per hour, you will still get 37 miles per hour. The difference will be in the decimal point places, because you're dealing, if you divide it by 36, you're still dealing with hundreds of thousands of miles per hour over of a calculation, the reference to over a couple of hundred meters. You understand what I mean? In the real world, there's no difference. The only difference is heliocentric. That's when there's a difference. Heliocentrism. Well, if you try and divide it and you put it into heliocentrism, it won't work because they're using that to give themselves all these distances.
Right. They're not using the speed of light to tell you how fast you're going. They're not calculating it. They're not doing any of that. It would be non sequitur to bring it up. They're measuring the time it takes for that beam to register your car and not register your car.
What are they
calculate your speed. Now, that picture is not the beam that was measured.
I'm not saying that about a picture.
It's non sequitur to what's being measured and how it's being measured. It is only there to say that that is the object that was in front of the beam. Now, this argument is silly and will get thrown out of a courtroom.
I wouldn't get thrown out of a courtroom because absolutely no way can I get thrown out of a courtroom.
You're not He-Man.
Because I know what I'm talking about.
They've got bailiffs.
Yeah. No, it's not like that. It's that they can't throw me out because they would be the ones in the wrong. And I can prove it outright.
Yeah, I've seen people say that in courts. They still get their arm behind their back, Brian, honestly. They just chuck them out.
Yeah, well, if that happened, I could bring it to a higher court. Either way, the point is that they can't win that. It's impossible for them. I can show them the calculations. I can go through exactly how it's done. I can show them exactly how it's calculated. And I can show them what would happen if you divide it down. And all I need to do is show that it's a calculation, which it is. I can even use Albert Einstein as a hostile witness.
Right. And they're going to show how that's a red herring to what they've actually measured. And
but they didn't measure anything, John. You keep saying what they've measured. They didn't measure. That's the point.
There was a beam of light that was broken, right? That your car passed through in 2 different time frames that was measured. That was measured.
Pray silence. Adam Meakin has entered the room.
No, there's no two.
Nothing was measured. Sorry, Jado.
Have some respect, ladies and gentlemen. The Adam Meakin.
All right. Honorable Adam Meakin has entered the courtroom.
Afternoon, guy. I'm thinking you're measuring, when you do radar traps like that, you're measuring the phase differential. So when you bounce the beam there, the disparity based on the Doppler effect, and we did this years ago, boys. We went right into detail of how it works, and it's the phase differential of the wavelengths that give you the distance, which is why what Brian's saying is fundamentally true. Once you've calibrated that machine with whatever number you use, and it doesn't have to be that accurate compared to the given stated speed of light, you can then use it accurately, as Neil's saying, to measure stuff. And what you're measuring is that phase differential of the Doppler effect.
Well, no,
On a
you're not
separate
measuring
note,
that.
in the
You're measuring
UK,
a phase.
just on a separate note, in the UK, we have average speed limit. So you have two cameras at known distances apart, and it's your time between point A and point B that is measured. So when you cross line A and when you cross line B on a known distance, that's when you get done for most of your speeding in the UK now, because it can't be shown that it was just a momentary thing that you hit 42. It's 42 over 300 meters or something. So.
Right. Well, to make the argument that your acceleration will change at a rate that's incommensurate with what's possible in reality is non sequitur. The point that is made is that you have a beam that is set to give you a return signal at whatever the diffraction rate is, or whatever that diffraction pattern will show. At the moment it is broken, it will change, and then at the time it is back to what it was, it will change back. In that two different distinct time frames, that is your measurement from where you will calculate speed.
Now you're measuring the phase shift. When you've got a radar gun and you're using the Doppler effect to measure the phase shift between timing A and B, and that phase shift is what you then use to calculate the speed the object is going at. So when your first bit of light hits the car and bounces back, that's going to take a little less time or more time, depending on the relative position of the car to you, as it goes past you, than the second measurement. And it's that differential of rebound times that they use to calculate, I think.
Well, now there's two different ways. There's two different ways they do it.
Sorry, Adam. So, yeah, this is this is how they use the speed cameras all over the world. That is the Doppler effect based on radar, fixed radars measuring the speed of particular cars. But the problem is, no matter how you engineer the Doppler effect into a speed, you still need to know where the vehicle was at position A and where the vehicle was at position B to formulate a time over distance to calculate your speed, because kilometers per hour, miles per hour is a linear speed, and it's written in law.
Yes, and that's what you do. You take the diffraction pattern that you got, right? And we're calling it the Doppler effect now as the cause of the change. Whatever you want to say is the cause. I'm not trying to argue science. I'm just stating that pattern will change based on a set distance from the device when it measures it. That, and from the 2 points you derive in that, you will calculate your speed. That's fine. You can do it that way too. That is some machines do it that way. Some use a differential change in the amount of time that it takes for the change to happen. Some use a Doppler effect to predict it. It's fine.
Yeah, but
it's still shown.
Yeah, but you're still stating that's how they measure it. No, this is my point. They're not actually measuring anything. Even the Doppler effect is up for grabs, to be honest with you. But they're not actually measuring anything, because everything they do comes back to their calculation. It's a bit like it's actually exactly like a gravimeter, because the gravimeter is calibrated to 9.81 meters per second, right? But that's just a calculation. It's not a measurement. The same way as speed guns or radars or any, no matter what it is, the baseline calibration is to 671 million miles per hour. That's my point. The baseline of calibration is calculation, and that's what they go back to. So they don't actually measure.
I'd agree with you there,
The diffraction pattern.
Just
is
let
what's
John get
being
out. Just hold on, everyone. While John's talking, everyone else just let him, because he's causing a bit of audio chaos for whatever reason. Go ahead, John.
The diffraction pattern is being measured. That's wrong to say that they're not measuring anything. They most certainly are. I don't know why we're arguing this.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what we're measuring now. The calibration comes in where Brian says, once we've calibrated that device using that calculation, that assumption, we then go on to measure things with that shift. And we are measuring that shift. Now, how we interpret that is where Brian's point is. But the measurement is the shift, and it's actually very accurate. That's all. But I do think we are measuring something.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
now,
you
the calculation. But hold on, I got to respond to that. The calculations you do afterwards are irrelevant. We are measuring 2 points. We accept that, right?
Yeah, but
We're
there's a
measuring
problem.
2 points. No, we're measuring the phase shift of 2 different rebounds. Now, that's why a radar operator, he has to be quite skilled,
I'm
because
sorry.
he's got to track the vehicle. He has to track that vehicle to get sufficient data to ascertain what speed it's going at. So he's got to follow it and keep getting multiple thousands, isn't it, millions of data points of the differential in the phase shifts based on the rebound. It's
Don't say
those
no,
phase
then.
shifts as he tracks it
Don't say no.
that we then do
Say no if
another
you
calculation.
Oh my God, John, you're causing complete chaos. As you're interrupting him, we just can't hear him anymore. So you're effectively
Well,
muting
it's
him.
been frustrating for him to say no and then agree with what I just said.
No,
Okay,
I
well,
just want
calm
to
down,
point
man.
to something else.
Maybe I'm not arguing with you then, so you don't need to argue. Maybe you just agree with the point or nuance where you think it's slightly different.
Let me add a little bit of clarity here. Measuring a phase shift is not going to give you a speed for the vehicle, right? A speed for what the vehicle is doing and has done for whatever amount of hundreds of meters after it's gone past the camera or whatever. Once they have that phase shift, they then match it up to a two-way speed of light calculation, because that's their baseline for everything they're doing. So the problem is, as I pointed out, in the real world, I can take that calculation and divide it by 36, right? And it's still usable with a speed camera and everything else, but it's not usable with heliocentrism. That's my point, because it's just a calculation. So the phase shift will be measured, but the phase shift will not give you a speed. The speed has to be calculated via amalgamating that phase shift to your calibration, which is the two-way speed of light calculation. Right. My point is overall is that it's twofold. Number one, that it's not a measurement thing. The speed is not being measured. Is my point. Right. Number one, and number two, as I said, if you divide the calculation down, it still works perfect in the real world. It just won't work with heliocentrism. It won't work with satellites, and it won't work with distances to stars and all this other rubbish. That's my point.
Okay. Well, you are measuring something with the radar that have 2 distinct diffraction patterns that you will have. And we know things about those diffraction patterns because we can measure those things and see that this change is commensurate with this speed. And we can therefore say, if this pattern is shown to be the object in the camera at the time this change is recorded, your car was going at that speed.
Yeah, but the time is the thing, right? So you're going from phase shift to time to what? What's the time? What is that calibrated to?
Irrelevant.
That's calibrated.
Irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant because that's the final. That's the. It's not. It's totally not irrelevant. It's the most not irrelevant thing ever.
Okay, right. Well, can you mute while we?
Without that, you won't.
Okay, but can we hear him? Because otherwise, if both you and John are off mute, it's audio chaos.
Hear who?
Right. If you can show a difference, a measurable difference that is not only a continuous and constant, right? But 45 will give you this diffraction pattern. An object moving at 45 miles an hour will constantly give you this diffraction pattern within this radar gun. And that's the only pattern that shows for 45 miles an hour. That's how you know it's 45 miles an hour. That is measuring something.
No, you're not measuring the speed. You're measuring a diffraction pattern difference. You're measuring a phase shift. But then you're going, right, then you're trying to match that to the time. But what is the time matched to? A two-way speed of light calculation. That is the point. The baseline for in step 3, the base, which is the baseline, you're using a calculation. So the point I'm making is, doesn't matter how many phase shifts you measure, that won't give you a speed unless you take that and amalgamate it with a time and then amalgamate the time with your baseline calibration, which is just a calculation. That's the point.
Right, and that's how you get a measurement, where you take a conceptual unit and apply it to an aspect of reality, and voila, measurement. You just described the process of making measurement and said it's invalid.
It is invalid. It's not a measurement. You don't get a measurement from. You're literally using a calculation as your baseline calibration. How was that a measurement, John?
But then how is it so accurate?
Because I've gone through it already with you, Neil. Right? Because they're using such a ridiculous. They had to make it because of such a huge, ridiculous speed. But it doesn't matter. You can break that down, and you'll still be accurate in the real world, but it won't be accurate for heliocentrism. You're saying it's accurate. It's not. This is the point. What am I saying? Well, I need to have my head right. What am I saying? Why am I even, Neil? It's not accurate. That's the point. What am I saying? It's not accurate at all. That's the point. It is.
Well, I'm trying to say when I'm doing 37 and that thing rings 37, the freaking thing is right. Even when I try to argue it, I can't, because he hit the freaking button and I look at the speedometer. As soon as I see the cop, it's freaking dead on. My speedometer says freaking 37. He pulls me, comes, you've been doing 37 or 65. Like, you can't even argue it because, I mean, they say it's not accurate within 10 miles. So that's why 9 is fine, 10 your mind rule applies. That's just how Deming thought.
Okay. Missing the point here.
Yeah, you're missing the point. Yeah, exactly.
Let me just explain from what Brian said in terms of the calculation, because I think it can be a little confusing when he's saying you can divide it by 16, 32, etc. Now, it's not just dividing the answer, okay? It's dividing how the calculation uses the Doppler effect. So in the calculation, both waves patterns have the speed of light in them. So even if you divide it by a stupid amount, the multiplier, because it's so originally big, it makes very little difference to the end calculation. That's what he's saying. It's not as thing is, oh, you could just do that and you divide it by 64. It's then within that calculation that the speed of light, because it is so big, when it comes to the differential of the two waves, which you've now assumed are going 64 times slower, both of them, then it doesn't result in such a discrepancy what you would think. Is that what you're saying, Brian?
And why doesn't it trigger when I'm doing 25?
Let me explain it to you, Neil, again. If you use the current calculation, this is how Adam is just trying to lay out to you, right? If you use the current calculation, and it'll say you're doing 37.1 blah, 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 right? Or 0.00001 blah, 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 right? And you change that calculation, you either increase or decrease it, right? Your claim speed, two-way speed of light calculation, then you will still get 37 point blah, 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 blah. It's the blah, 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 blah part that's changing, not the 37. Because you're dealing with such a monstrous speed or claim of calculated speed. That's the point. When you divide it, it's still monstrous. That's my point. And when I divide it by 36, it's still, if take 671 million and divide, okay, I'll do it, one second.
Forget about all of that shit. When I'm doing 25 miles an hour, nothing happens. As soon as I hit that 35, bing, the freaking ticket comes. Now give me a freaking answer for that.
The equipment is accurate, okay, in terms of how it differentiates the phase, the disparity of the two waves, yeah, and measures that differential. That's accurate, yeah. Now, what's Brian saying is because the speed of light is such a big number, it really doesn't matter if you move a decimal point on the speed of light. It's not going to change the way the end result, the calculation gives you. That's all.
Right.
So the machine will still be accurate.
So therefore, a non sequitur argument to what the police would be presenting as evidence.
No, it's not non sequitur. That's the point. The point is I can use that fact in a courtroom and prove that they're not measuring the speed. That's the point. I can show
behind that.
how in the real world, that I can divide that and it will still come out at 37 because it's calibrated to a calculation.
Well, it's self-defeating.
But there is
not really because I can change it by a ridiculous. I can decide because it's a calculation. I can make it come out at 27 miles an hour if I want. I just have to divide it enough times.
Okay, well, we're going to debate it a bit more in the after show, but with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be, as I say, an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, thanks to Jardo, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.